They were DC forms, and Qiao Hao was the person who had had the operation. She saw the two words, the name of the person who had signed underneath. The fingers holding onto the papers shook violently. Lu Jinian. It was his signature. He agreed for her to do the DC operation. Qiao Hao's eyes were filled with astonishment and disbelief at what she saw, but it was in black and white. It was written so clearly, and it didn't seem like a prank. Her mind was completely blank. She read the papers over and over again, several times. In the end, no matter how she saw it, the words were so clearly written on paper. Qiao Hao didn't know just how long she was standing there, frozen on the spot, staring at the papers. It wasn't until Jia Mong had come out of the shower, and she asked where the hairdryer was, that she finally snapped back to reality in a panic. She hastily folded the papers up and shoved them into her bag. Then she silently took a deep breath, and quietly pointed over at the sofa, saying, "Over there." Even though Qiao Hao appeared composed, Jia Mong still heard that there was something wrong in her voice. With a head of dripping wet hair, she looked up at her and asked worriedly, Qiao, what's wrong?" "I'm fine." Qiao Hao shook her head. Right then, her mind was in complete disarray. She needed to quickly find a place to clear up her thoughts, so she pulled a smile for Jia Mong. "I'm hungry. Maybe my blood sugar is low. I don't feel well, so I'm going to the restaurant first. Later, come find me there." Jia Mong nodded, and said, "Yeah." Qiao Hao didn't say anything more, just grabbed her handbag, and then quickly left the hotel room. She didn't go to the restaurant, but got straight into the elevator and left the hotel. She went to the empty garden behind the hotel and sat on the stone bench. There, she continued to flip through the papers in her bag, over and over again. Her fingers gripped tightly onto the papers, creasing their edges. She looked at the time of the operation on the DC forms. It was over 20-something days ago when she went to the hospital. But at the time, she was deep asleep, so she didn't really have any recollection of it. The next day, when she woke, she was already in the bedroom in Miangsha Garden. Madame Chen had said her period came. Her period was always irregular. Every time it came, she'd always be so incredibly sick, like she'd lost half her life. Even though she was weaker than usual the time her period came, she didn't feel like anything was off. She sensed that something wasn't right, but she didn't think anything more of it. Unless, back then, she actually had a DC. But this letter was a little too strange. There wasn't any information about the sender. Was this a setup? The more Qiao Hao thought about it, the more confused her heart was. Deep within, there was a part of her that believed that Lu Jinian would never abort their child, but this letter definitely shook her. Her heart was conflicted for a long time. In the end, she folded the forms up and put them into her bag. She pulled out her car keys and drove her car to the hospital on the forms. Rather than pondering over these papers on her own with crazy thoughts, why not go directly to the hospital and get down to the bottom of it? The morning roads in the city were congested. Qiao Hao took only 2 hours to reach the city hospital. Since there were many people there, Qiao Hao was afraid someone would take her photo, stirring up gossip, and so she wore a hat and mouth mask when she got out of the car.